Hello, my name is Olivia Hall, and today I'll be discussing the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was a horrific event that resulted in approximately 185,000 civilian and soldier deaths. I have a personal connection to this topic because I have many family members that had to suffer the consequences of this bombing. I have done extensive research and have read many reputable sources in order to expand my knowledge on this topic. The bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was a turning point in World War II. The events leading to the bombing itself, and the results of the bombing made an extremely large impact on the United States history. First, I'll describe the events leading up to the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Second, I will examine the actual bombing. Third, I will discuss the results of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In the time during World War II, there were many events that led to the eventual bombing of Japanese cities Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The tension created by a Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor was one of the main leading factors. On December 7, 1941, the Japanese military bombed the United States Army base in Pearl Harbor. This event caused there to be an extreme tension between the two countries, and there was also the ultimate reason for the United States entering World War II. This bombing leads to an extreme distrust of Japanese in the United States. This distrust was one of the determining factors for the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The Japanese refusal to surrender in World War II was also a determining factor. Japan followed a strict code of no surrender, followed by ancient samurais known as the Bushido. This code made Japanese forces to refuse to surrender even after their other allies, Germany and Italy, had surrendered, and even after an extreme death toll in their country. The United States believed that the newly developed atomic weapons would be an adequate warning to the Japanese to surrender the war. They believed that the destruction caused by the bombs and the civilian casualties would encourage the Japanese government to break their code Bushido and surrender to the United States and their allies. These combined factors resulted in the eventual bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The development of the bomb and the actual bombs made a large impact on the United States. The development of the atomic bomb responsible for the bombings was one of the biggest factors leading to the bombing. The technology used to create the bombs, Fat Man and Little Boy, which were used to bomb Hiroshima and Nagasaki, were developed during the Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project was conducted mainly by German refugees who were aware of the new atomic technology that the Nazis had been developing. One of the most relevant issues in the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was the devastation caused by the act. Combined, the bombings were responsible for 185,000 deaths. 110,000 people perished immediately due to the extreme temperatures caused by the bomb. The remaining 75,000 people passed due to severe burns and radiation poisoning. The cities Hiroshima and Nagasaki were completely leveled due to the intensity of the bomb. Most buildings were completely destroyed. However, buildings made of concrete remained standing. The tragedy caused by the bombings and the new technology that had been discovered resulted in many tensions entering the world after World War II. The results following the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, such as relief efforts put in place by the United States, were one of the main results of the bombing. The United States was responsible for helping rebuild the city Hiroshima and Nagasaki after they bombed the cities. And they were also responsible for helping Japan develop a government that resembled the government in the United States. The United States had soldiers assist in rebuilding the cities and remodeled the country's constitution, while also keeping the Japanese emperor in power as a figurative power seen in the United Kingdom with the royal family. New tensions between the United States and the USSR developed after the bombing as well. The discovery that the United States had access to atomic weapons and were willing to use them panicked the USSR. While the countries were allies during the war, after a new tension arose. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki assisted in the start of the Cold War between the United States and the USSR. The factors leading to the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the actual bombing, and the results of the bombing had a major effect on the United States history. In the time during the World War II, there were many events that led to the eventual bombing of the Japanese cities Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The development of bombs and the actual bombing made a large impact on the United States. The results following the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were also very big factors in the history of the United States and the history of the world. This speech informs the audience on historical significance and the events before, during, and after the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Thank you for being attentive during this presentation, and I hope that you gained a new knowledge on the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.